Well, good morning and welcome to the first UU. My name is Babs Garcia. I'm comfortable with she, her, they, them pronouns. This morning I'm got my shaggy short hair, wearing my glasses and a hoodie for a place I've never been, but it's the t-shirt hoodie, which is fantastic. So if this is your first time here, your third time here, or your 50th time here, we welcome you. Let us begin by acknowledging that we are gathered on the traditional territory of the Niukanska people, known sometimes as the Osage. The descendants of the people who were forcibly removed from this land make up the Osage Nation. We acknowledge their continued struggle for justice. The chalice lighter in the sanctuary this morning is Barbara Vicente. Thank you. The chalice lighting words are hoping, trusting for so many things by Katie Kandarian Morris. Here we have come into this sacred space, quieter now with our readiness. Hushed voices, hoping, trusting for so many things. For connection, for communion, for inspiration, for information, for healing, for wholeness, for words, for music, for celebration, and for consolation. Here we have come into this place, bringing all who we are. Let us be willing, however we are changed.
Rise up, O flame, by thy light glowing, show to us beauty, vision, and joy. Rise up, O flame, by thy light glowing, show to us beauty, vision, and joy.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Becky Mark, and I'm going to be giving the opening words this morning. I think we all, anyone standing at this platform today can use the excuse of, daylight savings time has impaired my mouth. But the one I'm going to use is, this is the first time I've ever laid eyes on these words. But here they are, and I'm sure they're wonderful. The opening words are from a piece called In Our Circle Again by Reverend Shari Woodbury. And they are on the subject of trusting the possible and reaching it together. Here we are in our circle again, a circle of vision and reflection, a forum for deciding and empowering. Here we are at the base of another bridge, another space spanning the shores of today and tomorrow, beckoning us to cross the chasm one day at a time. Here we are, gathered again at the cusp of the future, at the boundary that holds community together. We are here in a circle of love and trust, brought to this moment by a series of choices and promises, by hope and gratitude, by our own shadows, faced and befriended, with a servant's heart, with a leader's listening, with a parent's love, truer than all our inner trembling. Let us model the health we seek for all and lean into community. Somewhere out there, all we dream is possible. Somewhere in here, we are sowing the seeds. The month of March is based on the theme of living love through the practice of inclusion. And our song for, what did I say? How about if I just read, how about if I read the words in front of my face? Would that be good? Song of the month. Our song for the month of March, when our theme is living love through the practice of inclusion, is Soon the Day Will Arrive, number 146 in the gray hymnal.
Soon the day will arrive when we will be together, and no longer will we live in fear. And the children will smile without wondering whether on that day thunder clouds will appear. Wait and see what a world there can be if we share, if we care, you and me. Wait and see what a world there can be if we share, you and me. Some have dreamed, some have died to make a bright tomorrow, and our vision remains in our hearts. Now the torch must be passed with new hope, not in sorrow, and a promise to make a new start. Wait and see what a world this could be, what we share if we share, you and me. Wait and see what a world there can be if we share, if we care, you and me.
Good morning again. My name is Laura. I use she, her pronouns. I'm wearing one of my mini blood center shirts and a little scarf that I crocheted. And today I get to bring the Time for All Ages story. This month, we are exploring the practice of trust. Now, there are many things we can trust and many different ways to explore this theme, but we're going to start by looking at what it means to trust ourselves. And so I get to share one of my favorite children's stories, The Little Engine That Could. I think many of you know it. Once there was a big train filled with toys and goodies for children that was stuck at the bottom of a steep mountain. The train needed to get to the other side, but its engine wasn't working. All day, other trains passed by, including a red engine, a big black engine, and a shiny green engine. Each time the broken engine asked for help, but they all refused, saying they were too important or too busy. Then a small blue engine came along. It wasn't big or strong, but when asked to help, the little engine said, "I'll try." The red engine, the big black engine, and the shiny green engine all laughed, thinking there was no way this little blue engine could pull the train cars over the mountain. But the blue engine just hitched herself up to the heavy train and started pulling. Now you can do this part with me. Chugga, 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 choo, choo. Up the mountain went the little blue engine, slowly but surely. And as she did, she began to sing. I think I can, I think I can, I think I can, I think I can. The little engine chanted as it climbed higher and higher. Chugga, 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 choo, choo. It was tough, but the engine was tired, but it didn't give up. Might have sounded something like this. Chugga, 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 choo, choo. Finally, after much effort, the little blue engine reached the top and started down the other side. The toys and goodies made it to the children, and everyone cheered for the little engine that believed in itself and kept going. The little blue engine unhooked herself and said goodbye, and as she made her way back along the mountain, she sang, I thought I could, I thought I could, I thought I could, I did, I did, I did. This story is a wonderful reminder of the fantastic things that can happen when we trust ourselves. We all have a voice inside that says, I can do it. I can face hard things. When we believe in and trust that voice, we unlock a special superpower called self-confidence. So in the days and weeks ahead, may all of us remember to tap into that superpower and trust that when we work hard and put our minds to do it, we can do hard things. Choo, choo.
Good morning. I'm Sherry Buchanan, she, her pronouns, and it's really good to be here. We've been gone a few weeks, so I was eager to get back. I'm going to share this week in UU history. On March 11th, 1965, James Reeb, a Unitarian minister from Massachusetts, died in Selma, Alabama. He was one of more than 125 Unitarian Universalist ministers who answered the call of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. to join the March 7th march from Selma to Montgomery in support of voting rights for Black Americans. On March 11th, segregationists who objected to the march and the marchers struck Reeb on the head with a club. He was denied care at the closest hospitals because he was supporting voting rights for African Americans and had to be transported more than 90 miles to a hospital that would treat him. 2 other individuals were killed as a result of this march. Jimmy Lee Jackson, an African American laborer and church deacon, and Viola Liozzu, a Unitarian Universalist layperson from Detroit. We will now do our morning offering. Offering our gifts to support the work of building inclusive and just communities is one of the many ways that we live into justice and equity together. Some of us have much to give and some have little, and together it is enough. We are enough to work together for a world where every human can live into their best and most authentic self. If electronic giving is your preferred method, or if you're on Zoom, virtual giving options are available via our website, springfielduu.org. The offertory today is Break Not the Circle, with words by Fred Hahn and Ada Habershon, music by J.S. Bach, Old Hundredth from the Genevan Psalter, with additional music by Charles Gabriel, arranged by John Prescott, and performed by the choir.
Break not Till people of whatever race or nation will truly be themselves and on their feet. See eye to eye with laughter and elation. Will a circle be unbroken by and by, Lord, by and
Good morning. I am Reverend Michelle Scott Huffman. My pronouns are she, her. And I am the minister here at First UU. I'm a middle-aged woman of, I think, average height with short, spiky, salt and pepper hair, wearing a red plaid shirt and glasses. And happy to be here today. When I went on sabbatical a couple of years ago, the congregation gave me a book called There's Circles All Around. And it was signed by lots of people with well wishes for my sabbatical. And the thing that you should know about that today is you've heard the word circles a number of times already, and you'll continue to hear it several more times, because I think that that is the most important and natural orientation for us as human beings in this world, to be in circles together. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about something called circles of trust. But I want to just first say, I shared a message a few weeks ago encouraging us in this time to be bold and brave and to step out and do hard things, as we heard about this morning in the Time for All Ages, and to show up and stand up and speak up. I shared that message on my Substack, and it has subsequently been viewed about 350 times. And I've received lots of messages from people who have said, I want to do this. I want to show up, stand up, and speak up, and I don't know how. Or, and I have run into difficulty when I've done that before. Or, and I don't feel welcome in the places where I'm supposed to go to do that. And I don't know all the things that I'm supposed to know to do that. And I have this going on and that going on, and all the reasons that we find in our own minds that we can't show up and speak up sometimes. And so I want to talk today about inner work. Now, none of us here need any inner work because we've all arrived, right? And so if a little bit of kind of fragility is like creeping up right now and you're feeling a little defensive, just know that this message is not for you at all. It's for whoever you need to go and tell after church about it. Some years ago, I sat in a circle of strangers, invited to share truths about myself that maybe I hadn't even spoken aloud yet. The invitation felt both radical and terrifying. What if my truth was met with silence? What if my voice shook? What if I said too much or too little? But in that circle, a circle of people that I had never met in my life in Franklin, Tennessee, people from all over this country, something remarkable happened. One by one, we spoke. That in itself is remarkable. And one by one, we were received, not with critique or correction, but with deep listening. No one rushed to fill the silence after someone spoke. No one tried to fix or explain away another's pain. Sometimes when someone was sharing their experience and their story, they wept, and no one tried to intervene. They just let them weep. In that space, I learned what it meant to really trust. Because there wasn't a relationship that we had built upon that caused me to trust these people. I didn't trust them because I worked with them. I didn't trust them because they were in my family. I trusted them because we all came to be a part of an experience where a container was very intentionally built to help us do the hard inner work that we can do in community. The circle was, in its very essence, a trustworthy space. Up to that point in my life, I had never given any thought at all to what might constitute a trustworthy space. But since then, I find myself increasingly wanting to be in trustworthy spaces with people who are doing the inner work to keep it so. We've recently introduced some simple circle of trust practices in our Spirit and Practice class downstairs. And at the end of that session, people said things like, "That was amazing. That was like therapy." And wait for it, in this Unitarian Universalist church, someone said, "That was holy." In January, I was tired and I didn't have musicians for our worship service on campus for the campus ministry that I lead. And I just started doing Circle of Trust work with our students at our weekly Liberate worship service. And last week, I told them that after spring break, I promise we'll get musicians and we'll have actual worship services again. And they all quickly told me that I couldn't take away the Circle of Trust experience that they had been having. That it was the only place they felt heard and fully trusted that what they shared was being held with great care and in confidence. I'll come back to the Circle of Trust stuff, but I want to think together about who we are in this room today. People who have decided to become, or at least people interested in, Unitarian Universalism. There is something different about Unitarian Universalism than most of the churches that most of us have been to in our lives. We are not gathered around dogma and creeds. We are gathered around values and principles, and perhaps most importantly, a covenant. And that covenant calls us to be the best of who we are in this place, but also to be the best of who we are when we go out into the world. And we can't do that without doing our inner work, because we all have stuff. We all have stuff that's keeping us from being our best selves. We have stuff that stands between us and other kinds of people because there have been misunderstandings or because we feel like we don't have the right kind of education or information, that we might not say the right words. That's some of the stuff, the fear that we hold, the trauma that we've experienced in our lives, that stuff. In this moment in our world that calls us to something big and bold out there, requires that we do some serious work in here. You see, trust at its core is relational. And as a covenantal people, not gathering around shared creeds, but around shared commitments, It is those commitments that call us into deeper relationship with one another and with the world, and I would venture to say with ourselves. Some of us don't have very deep relationships with ourselves, and it calls us to be stomping around in the world with no awareness, with no empathy, with no compassion, thinking that we're showing up in the way that we need to. Our covenantal commitments rooted in our values of interdependence, pluralism, justice, transformation, generosity, and equity are not mere words on paper, though they are literally represented on our printed covenant, which many of us have signed, and in the membership book that folks sign when they come here. They're practices, disciplines that require our participation. When we commit, for instance, to honoring the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part, we are saying that our relationships to the created world matter, that our words and actions ripple beyond us. When we covenant to dismantle oppression, we are acknowledging that trust is impossible without justice. And when we embrace pluralism, we affirm that true trust makes room for difference without demanding uniformity. If we are to be a people of trust, we must also be a people of courage. Trust is not passive. It is not simply an absence of fear, but an active commitment to move toward one another even when fear is present. There have been times in my life of ministry where I've heard people talk about covenant and say, I don't believe in covenant, it doesn't work. And I've said, tell me more about that. And I've heard a story about when covenant was broken. And my next question was, well, what happened? How did you use the work of the community to address that and to return to covenant? And every time I hear that story, the answer is nothing. We walked away. Friends, the whole point of a covenant is that we're going to break it, that we're going to mess up, that we're going to harm one another. And I hope that in this kind of place, that we are committed to the kind of inner work that keeps us rooted in relationship and that helps us use the tools that we have to return to covenant. The tools of creating trustworthy space. Because friends, we are in a situation right now where the world needs what we have to offer as Unitarian Universalists, and there are no sidelines. Nobody gets to sit on the side and watch what's happening right now because everybody is in danger of losing something in this situation. And for many people, it's literal life and death. And so this is the moment where we have to show up, but we have to show up whole. And many of us don't spend a lot of time thinking about whether we're showing up whole or not. We live these lives that are fragmented and segmented, and we carry different pieces of ourselves into different places, and it's kind of sloppy. We leave different pieces of ourselves laying around in those different places because we can't keep track of who we're supposed to be in any particular place. The work that is before us is to do strong, hard inner work, to integrate ourselves into whole people. So that when we show up in a place, we show up knowing who we are supposed to be because we're called to be authentically who we are in that place. This is not easy work. It requires us to show up with openness when it would be easier to retreat. It requires us to listen with the intent to understand rather than refute. It demands that we remain in relationship even when we disagree. Because what's going to happen out there if the people of goodwill can't get their act together and start moving in one direction? There was a conversation in different spaces a while back about the word accountability. And I can make an intellectual assent to the sort of pushback that people have against the word accountability. And I could see how that could be weaponized and taken the wrong way and cause further division in that conversation that we were having then. But I think we've seen now what happens when we don't act in accountability. I think we see on a grand scale in our nation right now what happens when accountability is removed from a situation. And so I want to encourage us to go back to that conversation and to think about what it is as you use as liberal people, as people of goodwill, to be accountable to one another in the work that we are called to do internally to be our best selves. Trustworthy spaces are not conflict-free zones. In fact, conflict, when engaged with care, can be a catalyst for deeper trust. But this requires accountability. Trust is not about avoiding discomfort. It's about ensuring that discomfort leads to growth rather than harm. And so I want to go back to this idea of circles of trust, a model of small group facilitation developed by Parker Palmer and the Center for Courage and Renewal. And the reason that I want to lift that up is because in all of the ways that I've operated in the world, in all of the spaces where I've been learning together about anti-racism work and anti-oppression work and advocacy with marginalized communities, the circle of trust spaces have been the most productive in my own person. They are created to be trustworthy spaces, but they're also created with the assumption that every one of us has an inner teacher. Every one of us can do the work that needs to be done. Every one of us can trust ourselves. But sometimes we need to be gathered in community to know how to trust ourselves, to get past some of the stuff that's gotten in the way of us trusting ourselves. In his book, Courage to Teach, Parker Palmer talks about 6 paradoxical characteristics of the kind of learning space where we can learn to trust ourselves and others. The first is that the space should be bounded yet open. Boundaries is another word that some of us get a little itchy about. Boundaries are good, especially when you enforce them. So a space where we gather together to do inner work in community should be bounded. It should have norms and rules and expectations, and we should hold each other to those norms and rules and expectations. And sometimes we think about that as someone calling us out, but the reality is the way for us to learn how to do better in a space is to address when something happens in that space. To say this thing has been a violation of the boundary that we set, and can we talk about how to move forward in a way that brings us back within the bounds? And the openness of that space creates the opportunity for honest conversation and for learning and for growth, where nobody has to feel guilty and shameful or offended. Next, the space should be hospitable and charged. So we are welcoming whoever will come into this space with the expectation that we're all there to do our own inner work, and charged with that expectation, so that once we come there, we recognize that everyone's doing work. And it's all mostly internal, and as a community, we're supporting each other in that work. That's the beauty of this thing that we have going on behind me. We all show up here with different religious or spiritual frameworks, and we're all doing internal work. But we're here as a community to support that work that might be different for each individual. The third paradox is that the space should invite the voice of the individual and the voice of the group. That there has to be room for people to share their voices. And there has to be a way for the group to process together the direction that they would go in next. Fourth is that the space should honor the little stories of the individuals and the big stories of disciplines and traditions. How do the universal stories of this world connect with our very particular individual stories? And what are the lessons that we can learn to help us navigate those? Number 5 is that the space should support solitude and surround it with the resources of community. Y'all, we have not learned how to be in spaces together without constant talking, without constant kind of direction. We don't know how to be together and just be silent for a while. We don't know what to do with a person who's in our midst and who clearly has some inner work going on. We haven't learned how to support that, but we can. We can learn that. We talk about circles of trust a lot of times as being alone together or doing inner work in community. And the 6th paradox is that the space should welcome both silence and speech. We've been doing some circle of trust work here this weekend, and someone remarked about how wonderful it was that there was a space in which they could process and stop talking and then process a little more and not get stepped all over by someone else who jumped in to either finish their sentence or take that in another direction because it connected with something in their own mind. A part of doing inner work in community is creating a kind of spaciousness for one another. And I hope that the idea of spaciousness feels inviting to you. So I want to invite you to think now about the resources that you have to do inner work. Whether it's something like circle of trust work, whether it's therapy, whether it's spiritual direction, whether it's regular conversations with a friend, whatever it is that will help you stay grounded in your own inner work. I promise you, if you will commit to that and stick with it for a while, you will be a whole person ready to show up in the spaces in this world that need you. And so today, as we think about practicing trust here, within our own congregations, maybe within our families, our communities, our circles of care, we can begin to imagine how our transformation allows us to take that out into the world and to transform the world. We can become trustworthy people in the wider spaces we inhabit that help to create trustworthy spaces in places outside of the sanctuary. And this is essential because if we are to face the pressing moral crises of our time, climate change, racial injustice, the erosion of our democracy, we must do so from a foundation of trust. Without trust, movements for justice fragment. Without trust, we become so consumed with defending our own righteousness that we forget how to listen, how to build, and how to love. But with trust, we can organize. We can engage in hard conversations without losing sight of our shared humanity. We can hold fast to our values without closing our hearts to those who are different from us. We can act not from fear, but from love. And so, as we move from this place today out into the world, may we recommit ourselves to the real work of trust. May we create spaces where vulnerability is met with care, where difference is met with curiosity, and where justice is met with action. May we be a people who practice trust, not just when it's easy, but especially when it is hard. And may we remember that trust is not something we are given, it is something we create. So we can create it together, not just for us, but for the world around us that benefits from our inner work. I'll close with this quote from Parker Palmer. Every great movement for social change has been animated by people who did serious inner work to constellate, consolidate, and give trajectory to the powers of the human heart, because those were the only powers they had. Everything else had been taken away from them, all external forms of power. Only by taking the inner life seriously and learning how to access and aim the power that's in us, not only individually, but collectively, could any of these great movements for change have happened. We must believe that the work we help people do inwardly has consequences in the larger world. May it be so. Blessed be, and amen. The interlude today is Bridge Over Troubled Water by Paul Simon, arranged by Claude Seckler and performed by Eva.
My name is Marilyn. I use she, her pronouns. I'm only 5'1" and my hair is short because it's frizzy otherwise. And I am wearing a scarf I crocheted also because my neck's cold. We honor, and I'm having trouble seeing, so forgive me. We honor the complex and heartbreaking struggles of our world by sharing in community those joys and concerns. Slips of paper are available when you come in. We hope that you have filled them out so that people who have trouble seeing can read them. And during the week, you may send your joys and concerns to our office at Springfield UU, pastoral care at springfielduu.org, or by leaving a voicemail on the office phone. If you're on Zoom, please use the chat box now for sharing your joys and concerns. All of these joys and concerns will be included in the member's email on Tuesday. We honor each joy or concern with a lighted candle, a symbol of the love as a community. We offer each of these joys and concerns. I think I missed something in that line. This morning, someone will be lighting the candles. Eileen, thank you. These are the ones over here. All the way over, and there's a little black switch on the bottom.
Okay.
As we begin this time of sharing, know that though we are in multiple physical spaces, we are together in beloved community. To begin, we hold and love all of us, those present and those absent. We light a candle for our church community. We light a candle of concern for Helen White, who is recovering from an illness and an injury at the manor at Elfindale. She welcomes visitors to help break up the monotony. Dacia and Ed share that 10 years ago this week, they visited First UU for the first time, and they sat right back there. They recall a round-robin sermon of speakers talking about gardening, including Paul Ferris and AJ Fox, and they remember a warm welcome from Eva. We light a candle of appreciation for First UU. A joy from Sherry Buchanan, a joy for all the local concerned citizens who are showing up for street protests, town halls, and other meetings to resist harmful government actions. A joy from Holly. My husband EW completed his 35 radiation treatments on Friday. Oh my goodness. And he got to ring the bell. Woo! A concern from Millie. My sister Susan has been dealing with medical issues since February 15th. She is at Barnes Hospital. They found a mass in her abdomen and have diagnosed diverticulitis, and we don't know everything else that's going on. Okay, a concern for Millie's sister Susan. And then, if you wouldn't mind joining me in saying happy birthday to Era. I'll give you a private second. And wait, a joy. I've been getting physical therapy for my neck, and it's doing better more and more each therapy session. And this is from Michael. Oops. Jesse, you'll help. A concern from Michael, dealing with my apartment complex management. And another joy This is from the Crespo family. Terry, Jack's grandmother, and Jim, Ray's brother, are visiting. Yay, family time. We honor the complex and heartbreaking struggles of our world. We light a candle for all who are impacted. In closing, for these joys and those joys and concerns that remain unspoken, we light a candle. In this month's small group packet, the Soul Matters team writes, quote, "We need our faith communities to restore our faith that life is ultimately a friend. We need the reassurance that when we fall, we cannot count on being picked up. Sharing our joys and concerns here together helps us to remember that there are friends all around who will pick us up. May we hold each of these joys and concerns in our hearts and minds. May our community of love ease sorrow and boost celebration. While we are in multiple physical spaces, we still share space together here in intentional community." And now let us join together in 1 minute of shared silence, followed by the singing of Spirit of Life.
Spirit of life, come unto me. Fear in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
Good morning, everyone. I am Jennifer Dunn and I go by she, her pronouns. I'll be sharing closing words with you, which are Go with Trust by Rev. Scott Taylor. May we go out today with trust in the tenderness that so often arrives to hold us in our pain, with confidence in the courage that arises from within, but is not fully our own doing, and with faith in the larger love that never ends and never lets us go. The final hymn today is I Know This Rose Will Open. It's number 396 in the gray hymnal. This is a round, so John will give us instructions. Feel free to stand if you'd like and sing.
We're going to sing this first all together, and then we'll do the A side and then the B side. Just come in when I tell you, and we'll sing for a short while. Here's the beat. All together. 1, 2, 3. I know this rose will open. I know my fear will burn away. I know their soul will unfurl its wings. I know this rose will open. I know this rose. I know this rose will open. I know their fear will burn away. I know this rose will open. I know this rose. I know this rose. I know this fear will burn away. I know this fear will unfurl. And now we end. I know this rose will open. Good job.
Friends, I hope that when you leave this place today, you do it by way of the kitchen and coffee and conversation, and get to know either someone you don't know or someone you haven't talked to for a while. If you're interested in a Circle of Trust experience, there's a flyer on the table that's pink that you can get registered for an online Circle of Trust retreat experience this coming week, or another one on Saturday, the 22nd. If you're on Zoom, send me a message if you want to participate. We will now extinguish our communal and personal chalices and then close with our unison sending words. Our service here is ending. Our service to the world begins anew. Go in peace.